Hi, my name's Rachel. I'm the author of The Integration Axis and the creator behind the creative project Integrationalism, titled From Fragmentation to Integration. The Integration Axis and the wider creative movement of integrationalism are founded on Carl Jung's concepts of individuation, shadow integration, and what Jungian analysis called the new dispensation, as well as Ernest Becker's concept of death denial. The mechanisms at play are what psychology describes as the processes of othering and self-seeing, as well as spiritual ecology and the wider web of the cosmos. The integration axis is a tool for analysing why there may be conflict within an arena. There are two main rods: human interconnectedness and ecological connection. Human interconnectedness looks at how people involved see those who are outside their own culture, religion, or ethnicity. You can have empathy for your in-group, but is that empathy extended to outsiders? If it is, then the motivation for hostility is reduced. This is analysed through current narratives within social systems, for example, when tensions between two different groups are causing conflict. Then there is ecological connection. This looks at how people treat the land. It is analysed through the belief systems and policies. Does the cultural narrative include stories and mores that uphold respect for nature? Are there policies that protect natural habitats, sustain wildlife, and help protect the planet and other species? These two rods must be present for the possibility of peace to be sustained. However, there are also 5 modulators that affect the level of conflict within an arena. These are economic pressures, social hierarchy, religious narrative, cultural worldview, and trauma. Economic pressures looks at the opportunities available to all people. This includes job opportunities, education, whether basic living conditions are being met, and access to healthcare. If these conditions are not available, the possibility of conflict occurring rises. Social hierarchy is about trust in judicial systems, policing, and governments. It also looks at whether these systems are fair across the board or whether they are exploitative and extractive. If they are, then again the risk of conflict occurring is greater. Religious narrative is looked at through the lens of Ernest Becker and his work on death denial. This means looking at how a religion integrates the fear of mortality into its religious framework. To give an example, the Aztecs acknowledged death, but they did not fully accept or internalize it. Their anxiety about death and cosmic destruction was projected outward through repeated human sacrifice. Sacrifice was believed to sustain the gods, the sun, and the order of the universe, so they were trying to control or negotiate with death rather than simply accepting it. If we look at Aboriginal Australian traditions, especially those connected to the dreaming, death is integrated by being seen as a transition rather than complete ending. A person remains connected to their ancestors, community, country, and the wider spiritual order. Rituals and storytelling keep death within everyday life, so mortality is accepted as part of an ongoing cycle rather than treated as something that must be defeated. Within the Aztec belief system, death anxiety could create violence and conflict. Within Aboriginal Australian traditions, this anxiety is lower because death is integrated into life with acceptance. The religious narrative modulator also looks at how religions respond to different beliefs and worldviews. It asks whether people can coexist with views that are not their own without feeling threatened or attacking those who hold different beliefs. This can be analysed through current conflicts involving religious extremism. The next modulator is cultural worldview. This looks at the cultural practices within the arena in question and reflects what the culture teaches as normal, acceptable, or morally justified. It shows up in how women, children, and vulnerable people are treated. For example, this includes harmful cultural practices such as honour killings, female genital mutilation, child marriage, strict gender controls, caste exclusion, and any other culturally normalised practices that cause systemic harm and therefore create conflict and violence. The final modulator is trauma. This includes historical and intergenerational trauma as well as current trauma. These traumas can be caused by war, famine, colonisation, and natural disasters. With trauma, the initial shock may be external. For example, the material consequences of a natural disaster may be seen within the economic pressures modulator, but its emotional and psychological aftermath enters the trauma modulator. For systemic violence to remain low, the two main rods, human interconnectedness and ecological connection, need to be present. The 5 modulators can either strengthen or weaken these rods and create the conditions for violence when they become fragmented. A society with integrated modulators but fragmented main rods may appear stable, but it cannot achieve fully integrated or sustainable peace because exclusion and ecological harm would remain. The rods and modulators are assessed across 3 tiers: fragmented, partially integrated, and integrated. Fragmentation indicates a high risk of systemic violence, while integration indicates a lower risk. For example, within the cultural worldview modulator, the scoring would be: fragmented means harmful practices are culturally acceptable or widespread. Partially integrated means harmful practices are limited or declining. Integrated means no systemic harmful practices are present.